In our last Kerbal space program mission, Wilfred Kerman became the first Kerbal ever to land on 2 moons in the same flight. It was a genuine landing, and one only succeeded after 3 tries. He had his fun on the moon. He went out, quick saved, had a little fun, and it is that moment when he chose to perform such a reckless maneuver simply for a prank that became one of the turning points in history. He reloaded the quick save and carried on with the mission, getting back into his ship and launching himself off of the moon, returning to Kerbin to become one of the biggest heroes. Or did he? Because it was on the way back that Wilfred Kerman realised the ship had so much fuel left, so much potential, and instead of returning to Kerbin, he went on back to Minmus. What that introductory video fails to mention is the fact that Wilfred Kerman did go back to Minmus, and he never came back. Despite having enough fuel to get him down safely onto the surface of Minmus, the lander did not have sufficient fuel to even get him back into orbit. And so, of course, it fell to another pilot by the name of Wilfred Kerman to construct a rescue craft capable of bringing them both back. Now, the Kerbal space program already has a rescue craft, a 3-seater, but they wanted to try out a new design. The technicians at the shop said to Kerbis that they would like him to field test one of their latest inventions, the crew cabin. Shoot for the Moon Enterprises proudly presents the first ever crew cabin. Despite being regarded by some as merely a tin can just large enough for one man to squeeze into, after its test, the cabin succeeded in keeping the test pilots alive enough to walk away from the landing site. Well, you know, hop at least. To lower weight, several unnecessary features have been removed from the cabin, meaning that RCS fuel and thrusters should probably be added if your mission includes having any control over your ship. So there we are, or here we are, getting back into orbit with Kervis apostrophe ship. It's going to be a standard, actually no, it's not going to be a standard Minmus transition, because today I'm going to try out a different method of getting there. What I usually do seems a bit impractical. It's basically match Minmus orbit and then reverse, burn retrograde to reverse the direction of the orbit in order to collide with Minmus, and then slow down and land on it, which isn't all that efficient. So, as I did with the moon in my last video, today I'm going to rendezvous with Minmus. And it should actually be pretty easy, because when you get out that far and that slow, it doesn't take much time to transfer from a low orbit into a high orbit. So here we are, burning out, and now we just need to warp round to the apogee that's, slightly below Minmus orbit. I say slightly, it's actually a fair distance. 35 where Minmus is 40 or something. 35 million meters, that is. So just warp to the top, and then of course we have to do our inclination burn. Now this orbit wasn't actually perfect, because the space program needs to rush to get there and save Wilfred. This is going to be a long mission, but it's nowhere near going to be as long as Wilfred's mission. Think about that time when he quick saved on the moon. It was about 11 days in, and then he reloaded that quick save and went back to Minmus, which takes another 3, maybe even 4 days, and then he got himself stuck there, now has to wait whilst this inept pilot, as he has been called before, comes out to rescue him in a ship that was hurriedly put together specifically for this mission. Who knows what could have gone wrong in the design? Who knows what crucial factors might have been left out of the ship. No one does, except for me, the narrator. Yes. So now adjusting our inclination by burning south, 180 degrees that is, latitude, or is it longitude? I think it's, yeah, longitude is distance from the equator, latitude is distance along the equator? It's neither of those, is it? It's just like degrees relative to the centre of Kerbin. You know, I'm just going to stop talking about that now, because I don't really know anything about maps. I know quite a lot about nav balls though, and that's why we're going to burn prograde, which is marked by the yellow marker without a cross in the middle of it, in order to increase our orbit. Make it roughly circular, you know, just below Minmus orbit. Circular being anywhere within the region of 35 million. Because when you're out at these distances, millions are pitiful amounts. Minute, infinitesimal. Except they're really not, are they? There we are, we have an orbit now. And you get some weird lag when you try and warp round at this speed. It's jittery, it's odd. Switching to Minmus proves to be the best solution to this. Oh, look at that. Weird. Yeah, Minmus is okay. And here we are, the craft comes up just close to it. I was planning to be about a quarter orbit behind it, but at these speeds it's evident that's far too far a distance. So I get into maybe an eighth and a tenth even of the orbit, and then burn prograde a little bit up in order to, you know, extend the orbit and to rendezvous with it, hopefully. Rendezvousing with a planet is significantly easier than rendezvousing with a ship, because in this game, actually, you know, it might be modelled, but I doubt it, ships are not big enough to attract each other. So they naturally, planets and other planets and ships naturally want to be pulled towards each other. And there we go. Just quick conversation change. Subject change even. Our patched conics has revealed that we are in fact going to collide with Minmus, or maybe just slingshot round it. I think that's a 12,000 meter apoapsis, which is pretty low, all things considered. At that height, we'd only be able to orbit at 50 times? I'm not sure. I haven't really orbited Minmus an awful lot. Minmus is still a relatively new feature into the game, if you think about it. Now I'm just burning a little bit directly up at this point, at 0 degrees, in order to increase that perigee to safe levels so we can warp a bit faster. And here comes Minmus, and there goes Patched Conics. I wish it would get its act together. Come on, it's obvious we're going to collide. Why would it change? I haven't provided any thrust for it to change. Oh well, we'll keep warping anyway. Should be... there we are. Now we're on the trajectory. And if we didn't burn at all, we'd be on a very big orbit of Kerbin, further out than the moons, from Minmus. Way further out than the moons, honestly. Now, as you can tell, we have an extremely inclined orbit. So the way I'm going to sort this is to warp round to the perigee, and first port of call is to burn retrograde until we actually have an orbit around Minmus, and we're not going to go flying out into that massive Kerbin orbit. But I'm not going to circularize it. I'm going to leave it fairly far out, at about 400,000 meters, because the slower we're going, the easier it is to change our inclination. So there we are, warping around now. And at this point in time, I'm not paying attention to which side or which way I'm actually rotating around. I'm just concentrating on that deadline, which I don't think I've actually left it in the video for time's sake, and also because it's fairly boring, you know. But I did actually burn the wrong way. I ended up burning south and lost a tiny bit of precious fuel. Fuel that, as we'll see later, we could have done with. But here we are now, burning north and changing our inclination sufficiently to get it, you know, over the landing spot of Wilfred Kerman. So there we are, just changing it slightly enough so it's, you know, directly over that spot. And then now we'll just warp round to the perigee and deorbit. It's pretty simple. Let's look at our mission elapsed time, MET. 15 days! 15 days, wow. Wilfred must have been in that ship for a long time. Those command modules, they're built to last. You know, with their infinite oxygen supplies and infinite EVA fuel. And here we are now at the perigee, ready to go down and join him and swap stories of our different, you know, different adventures on the way here. Although, to be honest, I don't think the pilots would class it as an awful lot of an adventure whilst they're on the long transition from Kerbin to Minmus. 4 days. 4 days locked up there in that command module. And for us it takes mere seconds to get out here. Well, I say mere seconds, this video actually took 2 hours to record and probably another 2 hours to edit to this final form. So, you know, this would be an ideal point for anyone to ask for rate, comment, subscribe. But I'm not going to do that because, you know, I'm too high and mighty. Oh god. Deorbiting. Soon we are committed to going down there and saving him. No doubt Kervis will start bragging. We saved you, you fool, why did you go back out there? You know, he'd either be, depending on what kind of character he is, he'd either be gloating or grovelling at Wilfred's feet. Because Wilfred, as we know, is a hero of the Kerbal space program. He was the first to step, now on 3 moons. 3 moons in one flight, he's been out there. Not 3 unique moons, just 2, but he went to Minmus and then to the moon and then back to Minmus, which is no little feat. And now we're down here, oh, just above him now. We probably want to kill our lateral velocity in order to try and come down as near to him as possible. Once again, pointing downwards towards the surface of Minmus. What a sight, what it is. Especially in the Kerbin sunset. We're basically on the edge of day and night. Luckily it's bright enough for us to be able to land safely. Landing in the dark on Minmus, for one of the most tense moments in the game. And there it is, there's Kerbal, our sun. And there it is, there's multiple moons, the original craft, of which this is an iteration, with the added crew cabin that allows us to pick up another passenger. And here we are, final approach, 30 meters, 25 meters, going at 3.3 meters per second. Oh, touchdown! Wow, that came a bit fast. Don't tip over, don't tip over, don't tip over. Ooh, that was close. Wow. Nearly tipping over then. Very nearly. But I suppose from a high angle it looks a lot worse than it actually felt, I suppose. Wow, and there we go. Down on Minmus. Kervis, you know, ideally Wilfred could just walk over here and get onto the ship and then we'd be away, but Kervis wants his time to shine as well. He wants to get out there, stand on the surface of this icy planet. Now we can just jet over there to multiple moons. And, oh, watch the floor! Ooh, ow, face plant. Oh, you know, the Kerbal Space Center, Kerbin Mission Control, impatiently, you know, over the comms, are you okay? It's a weird voice for them to have. And he's just like, yeah, I'm fine. It's actually pretty fun, I want to do that again. But no, this time I'll just take it a bit safe. Fly over there, and now we're close enough that that marker disappears, and we're on the final approach towards the ship. Look at that sunset, look how long the shadow is. Must be at least 10 times the length of that puny little craft that's, you know, that can throw a man through time and space. Well, not quite time, but, you know, space. Kervis plants himself down on the surface. Hey, Wilfred! Hey, Wilfred, come out. I'm here to save you. And here he comes. Although for some reason the UI fails to show his portrait, we know he is in there. He can't have gone far. Just get him out of there. Oh hi, Curvis. Probably feeling a bit full of himself now that he's such a big player, a big name, up there with Jeb and Bill and Bob. But you know, he doesn't show any gloating signs, both there just standing with their inane grins stuck on their faces. And he launches himself into the air and jets back towards the rescue craft that has come so far to, you know, solely for him. And, oh, there he is on the floor, having done the same thing that Curvis just did. Oh! You know, despite being told not to, it's just too fun to resist. And it's also a pretty easy way to get them both there at the same time. So, you know, it's quite a lot of fun. Oh, there he goes. Smack. Oh, he is bouncing. He's going pretty far over there. These Kerbals evidently seem to be made out of sponge. You know, compressible rib cages and the like. Wow, he is bouncing quite a lot over there. Is that Curvis or Wilfred? I've forgotten. You know, they wear the exact same suits. That would be something I'd like to see. I'd like to see a bit of distinguish. Something to distinguish each person in the suit. But, you know, I guess, even if it's just a name tag, that would be actually a really nice touch. You know, I'm not sure if they don't have them already. The only way we seem to be able to identify them is to click and see how much fuel they have left. And there it is. There's the rescue craft. Wilfred eagerly awaits his chance to, you know, sit in this revolutionary part, the crew cabin. Revolutionary, maybe, but still in its testing. Still being field tested. And as I mentioned, well, as the description of the part says, it doesn't actually have any torque of its own. It can't control the ship unless another part is added called Mech Jeb. Mechanical Jeb, the brain of Jeb in a robot. Done for reasons of meh. But it seems to be able to provide some control to pieces of debris as they're classed. As long as you have RCS and RCS fuel, reaction control systems there to be able to move the ship around. And finally, after seems what such a long time, we're back in the ship. They're both together, both grinning. And so am I right now. I've managed to rescue someone off of an icy wasteland. But, you know, there's no time to lose. Say goodbye to that lander that we're going to be leaving here. Maybe we'll find some use for it at some point. Doesn't seem to be an awful lot we can do with it, though. I mean, look at that fuel. That could probably actually get into Minmus orbit, but Wilfred didn't want to risk it, being sensible for once in his career. And here we go. Launching ourselves off of the surface. And, you know, it's the standard drill. Just burning at 270 degrees. Burning out. Burning slightly in the wrong direction. Probably want to be burning a bit more horizontal than this. But, you know, it's no matter. As soon as we escape the gravity of Minmus. Oh, big orbit. But we can just swivel ourselves around and burn in the opposite direction. Leaving that planet, accelerating it 1,000 times. The mission's gone on for 16 days and 3 hours for Curvis now. In a ship he designed by himself. I wonder if he's actually bothered to check over his ship. Have they done any, you know, pre-flight checks? Probably not. It is the Kerbal space program after all. Burning retrograde to lower our orbit. Not the most efficient place to do it. We really should be doing it at the apogee, but you know, they're eager to get home. Now, maybe foolish, maybe not, they want to attempt to land back at the Kerbal Space Center. Wouldn't that be a sight to watch the rocket come in? Although I guess it would be parachutes. If the parachutes are sorted correctly, that is. To watch it float down onto the Kerbal Space Center. Maybe even onto the launch pad if they can aim it right. Oh, that would just add more reputation. More respect to their reputation, I should say. Definite plus for their career if they can manage that. So that's what they're going to do. They bring the perigee down to again about 400,000 meters. 397,000 to be precise. Swapping now onto the dark side of Kerbin. And now it's time to burn retrograde to bring down that thing. And the moon's just there. Maybe we should go to the moon, says Wilfred. And now I don't think so. It seems a bit risky, don't you think? Ugh. So no, they're just going to stay in Kerbin orbit, and it's pretty easy for them. This is something they've been training over and over again. There's the continent, there's the home continent of them. Just warp around and prepare to deorbit. They have the training. They are utterly confident. They don't even need to pause to know if they're getting things right, to know if they're doing the right thing. They're so confident. Maybe even a little impatient. I mean, wouldn't you be after 19 days? Even longer for Wilfred, as we've already said. Yeah, I don't think I'd check the ship either, just to make sure everything's right. And I'm actually surprised that the orbital stage hasn't run out yet. That stage that gets them into Kerbin orbit, throws them out to Minmus, lands down on Minmus, and now has got them back to Kerbin. It's a pretty big stage, pretty well designed if I do say so myself. And there we are now, just putting the landing site a bit ahead of the continent to factor in for the rotation of Kerbin and for air resistance that'll surely drag them down before their trajectory tells them to. And it's clear they're a bit too high, their orbit's a bit inclined, so they're just going to burn at 180. Not the most efficient manoeuvre, especially at this point in time. And that's probably why the fuel has run out at this point. But it's no big deal, the fuel's run out. And, wait. Oh. Kervis! What a fool! Oh my god. The command module that Wilfred is currently being rescued in is strapped to this big hulk of now debris. And there's no way for them to re-enter. The re-entry module, what would be the Min lander, has only got room for one. What are they going to do? They are on a trajectory, a crash land trajectory at the moment. And doubtless, do they even have enough time to perform such a maneuver to possibly save them both? I mean, there's no time to launch a ship up there to save them. What on earth are they going to do? What on Kerbin are they going to do? So without pausing for time to think, they have to perform the most reckless maneuver ever heard of in the history of the Kerbal space program. Wilfred just bangs on the side of the command module. Go, go! What do you mean, go? You're just strapped out there on the ladder. Just go anyway. So they detach from that piece of junk. I mean, it might be safer just to leave Wilfred in that command module and to, I don't know, push the entire thing with that feeble little LV-909 liquid engine, but surely it doesn't have enough delta V to move that. Swinging round to point retrograde, to point I've been talking for a long time. Just swing round to point retrograde, burn, just burn. Wilfred starts coming off of the handles. Oh, man, they've got themselves into a situation, no doubt. Surely there will be words with Kervis if they even survive this ordeal. They have a long way to go. And every minute that goes by as they thrust, Wilfred is being pulled off of those handles. And burning at such low thrust is going to take ages for them to get back into orbit. Time that they don't have. They're plummeting now at hundreds of meters per second down towards the ground. Wilfred tries to readjust to get a better grip on the command module. It's tense. I can tell you, I am so tense at this point. Just burn for the horizon. Full throttle, come on. We don't have enough time. And he starts slipping off, and once again we have to switch back to him. in order to pull him back onto the command module. Just burn! Just burn! Did they even have enough fuel? I mean, these engines are really efficient, but, you know, it's a tense process. It's very scary for both of them. Imagine the responsibility now that's lying on Kerbis to pilot this and to not do anything that could throw Wilfred off. And once again they switch back to Wilfred and he climbs further up, and once again the engines come back on and push them further, hopefully to salvation, who knows. And after what seems like countless times of repeating this process, they check the map view and they're in orbit! Whoa! They are saved. Ish. You know, I mean, it's been 19 days and they probably are running out of fuel and oxygen. But at least they're in orbit. I mean, you know, at least they're going to survive for another few days. But there's still no space inside the command module. Wilfred is going to have to stay there, I think, clinging to the outside of the ship. They can probably switch around, you know, keep oxygen levels high. And now to the... ooh, why can't we go to the Space Center? Oh, okay. Oh, I realise. It's because he's on the outside of the ladder. There is some reason that you can't leave a flight in progress whilst the Kerbal is out on the ladder. So, you know, he just needs to position himself, let go. Try and stay as close to the ship as possible, though. Even though his RCS suit seems to be malfunctioning, because over the time, surely they're just going to float apart. And now I have to send a rescue craft to rescue the both of them. Kerman, you really have messed up this time. Guys, if you like the video, then please do like the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.